All right, we are live. It is February 2nd, and this is our weekly development agenda to run down development tasks for Backdrop CMS. For starters, we do have one pending issue for the PMC. I asked for votes last week, but I know a lot of people are out or away from their computers this week. But the question is whether we should allow in-kind trades. So if somebody wanted to volunteer some work and expected something in return, or if we're just going to require, and the current proposal is that we require all pro bono work is strictly pro bono, and there are no perks in return. In particular, if we end up having sponsorships or Backdrop, nobody will be entitled to a sponsorship without actually paying for it. And this comes from the Drupal world, particularly around Drupal events, where sometimes sponsorships were given away for free in exchange for pro bono work, and it upset the Drupal community. And so a couple of the events I was involved in established policies around this, basically saying, if you want to donate, that's fine, but you don't get anything in return for it. You're just donating because you're donating. And that seemed to make everyone happy. So I proposed something similar for Backdrop to see if we wanted to kind of set up some guidelines around that early, just so that people who do want to get involved will know what that looks like. Okay. No official vote yet. We're waiting for votes. Community outreach, we have a newsletter. It's ready to go. As soon as Backdrop 161 is released, we will send out the newsletter, and then all people who are on Pantheon can update their Pantheon sites too. The newsletter looks great. It's basically using our previous format, but using a kind of a Backdrop brand voice that we established that should be nice, and then all of the information from our current blog post. So it's good. I ordered some new sweatshirts. We were missing sizes in large, extra large, and extra, extra large. So I ordered a handful of those to kind of fill in the holes where we ran out. So if you have the wrong size and you want a different size, we can do that. But those t-shirts or those hoodies did increase in cost in 2017. And so I also opened an issue with the PMC about whether maybe that's not the best use of our spending our money anymore, and see if maybe we wanted to change something about the hoodie that might make it less expensive, or if we wanted to stop doing hoodies and doing something else instead. Did we mail you one, Gregory, the hoodie when you, no, yes, I don't know.
I don't know if you, but I never received one. That's what I said.
Okay. I think I remember sending you several t-shirts before Drupal South, but I don't remember the hoodie. So let's take that offline. Can you just ping me?
Yes.
Send me something and I'll look into it, see what's going on.
Yes. Okay.
Let's see. Back to agenda. So yeah, we have sweatshirts. I know there's a couple of people who've been waiting for them a very, very long time. Jeff, they will be here in the next week or two, and then we'll be able to mail them out. So that'll be good. But going forward, we will need to figure out if we want to keep ordering these things that are now more expensive or not. All right, backdropcms.org. Now that Backdrop 1.6 is out, we've got a bunch of other things we're focused on the primary website. We have a new homepage design. I posted the most recent screenshot of the design into the issue queue. I think where we're at right now is we're just building that, and then once it's built, we're going to iterate. So we don't have to launch it and looking exactly like that now, but I want to kind of get us closer to done so that we don't have this like half done thing. And then if we're, even if we launch it and then decide we need to change some colors or something, I think that'll be fine. We're close enough. Also exciting, we have set up a forum site at forum.backdropcms.org. Right now, there are 3 different content types set up there for comparison. One of them is provided by the forum module, which was removed from Backdrop, but now exists in Contrib, removed from core. Another one is just using a content type that we've manually created that's not provided by a module, using built-in taxonomy and comments and views. Nothing special added by any module. And then we also added the QA forum module, which Jeff wrote, that provides a slick way of adding comments to comments, which I would recommend people try if you want to take a look at that to see how that feels. And if there are any features we like about the way that works, we can try and include those in our solution too. But I don't think we're considering that as the solution we would choose, but we want to figure out what from that we want, because there probably are features there that we'll also want in our forum. And so trying to figure out that combination of things is what we're after. So anyone who hasn't seen the forum, take a look at forum.backdropcms.org. See what you like and don't like about each type. I would recommend creating a topic, creating comments, and seeing how it feels. We also,
excuse me, is that login, is it the same as the backdrop side?
no, it's so that's number one in our issue queue, is making sessions shared across both sites. And I have a local site set up for testing that, but is not implemented yet. So you currently have to
create a new
login. Yeah, you have to register for that site separately. But hopefully that will not be the case for much longer. All right. So last week we had also talked about setting up a translation server. And so Jeff, while I was on backdropcms.org, the server, I created a localized subdomain with a doc root and everything. So whenever we're ready, we can throw that up there. It needs like an Nginx config file, but other than that, it's pretty much ready to go. So do you want me to just throw that up there with like a brand new database, or is there a database we should start with?
I don't think you need a database.
Okay, so I'll just run the installer. Okay,
yes,
that'll be great. And then people who want to play with the localization server can set that up. Anyone who wants access, I would just say ask in Gitter in the issue 2500, and we can make sure you can play with whatever you need.
I saw on the repo that it was a sort of like a Drupal copy of the. It was based on Drupal, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah. So we decided that before we worked on porting that to Backdrop, we wanted to have a working localization server because people need it now. So step one was like get it working with Backdrop, our code base, as opposed to with Drupal. But it'll run a Drupal site will do it, but it'll give you Backdrop translations. And then as soon as we get that working, then we can work on porting the Drupal site to a Backdrop site. So it'll translate Backdrop sites, but it'll, like the machine itself will be Drupal. And then eventually we'll fix that so that everything will be Backdrop. But right now we just wanted people to have something to use right away. So
fair enough.
Yeah. And then we have a bunch of like good recommendations from Gore about changing the way localization works, but we figured we'll just, one thing at a time. First, let's get it up. Okay, I can handle that. Or I can make you an admin, you can do it. But once that site's up, we'll just turn on the localization modules.
And again, there's separate logins there as well, right?
Yeah, and because that's a Drupal site, those logins will remain separate until that gets ported to Backdrop so that we can share sessions across the Backdrop sites. But hopefully most people who are using it, like consuming the translations, won't need a login. But we'll see how that ends up working. Like only the administrator should need a login there. Okay, so next up, I think all that stuff is coming along really well. So thank you everybody for looking at the forum, and thank you Jeff for setting up the localization repository. All right, Backdrop 1.6, Quick Sketch is not here today. I don't know, Jeff, if you've been following along with these issues, you might be more up to date than I am. We have one issue that's RTBC, which is awesome. We can go ahead and merge that whenever. We have 3 issues that needs work that we should probably shoot to getting in to 1.6.1. The one that I think is most important is probably the system settings form fix. And that one's kind of a doozy. So the more people we can get testing that one, the better. So anyone who has a Backdrop 1.6 site and wants to help us test that, that would be good. And then we noticed a problem with table drag that resulted from our latest update of jQuery. And this same problem exists on Drupal. There are like 4 issues in Drupal about how the table drag is broken and not quite fixed. And so I think we're probably going to need to well, ideally, if we had somebody who understood how the table drag JavaScript works, look at it and figure out exactly what solution we need, that would be good. But because the problem only happens some of the time on some browsers, it's sort of hard to identify. But I know I have the problem, so if anyone wants me to test anything, I'd be happy to. I don't understand the JavaScript well enough to write any new stuff, but I can definitely like apply random Drupal patches and see if they make a difference. So,
Well, does it have? Does it also go wrong if you set the old standard to 1.7?
you mean if we downgraded jQuery back to the previous versions?
Yeah, it has. The 1.7 has been for a very long time the most stable and less problematic.
Yeah, that could be an option, would be downgrading our jQuery version. I think it was Backdrop 1. So I don't think we got the problem in 1.6, but we did upgrade jQuery in 1.6. So it might be worth kind of examining our policies around including updates to external libraries in minor releases or not, especially.
There are two settings also. One setting for the admin interface and another for the user interface. Each one has its own version in the jQuery update module.
Yeah, I feel like the best possible solution would be to fix the problem for everyone, so that if you had any table drag on the front end of your site, for like if you had some draggable views interface or something your end users used, that would work too. But there are a couple of solutions. Like if we need to release 1.6.1 and we haven't fixed that problem, we could definitely roll back the update to jQuery UI. Well, actually, I don't know. I'm not sure, that might break other stuff because we updated it a while ago, but there are options. Hopefully we can just fix it. Easier said than done. And then I posted a new pull request this morning for fixing the height on multi-select form elements. So if anyone wants to test that, that would be great. I just added a extra selector for where a select element has multiple. I checked the specs on that, and apparently the value of the multiple attribute is irrelevant. Browsers treat it the same way. So I decided not to check like, is multiple true, or is multiple multiple, or is multiple on? It doesn't matter. It's just like, okay, if it's multiple, anything, it now has an auto height. I don't know if there's any other issues that have cropped up that are super urgent for 1.6.1. I didn't check the whole checker. I did do a little poking around in the issue queue this morning and saw a bunch of people responding to stuff right away, which is great. And most of the issues that were there were duplicates of other ones or unreproducible. So thank you all for jumping in and helping people figure out their problems, but made me happy to see that. Okay, so is there anything else anyone wants to talk about for 1.6? No? Okay, so for Backdrop 1.7, this is our next minor release. It's scheduled for the 15th of May.
Sorry, Jana, I want to say something. So this bug with the forms not saving, this various form,
yeah,
it really makes me feel like 1.6 is broken badly. So last time, sorry, I wasn't around the past couple of weeks, but do we have a working solution for that, or?
We have no. So we have a pull request, but it still needs work. Jay Franklin's working on it right now. I kind of agree that it, like, 1.6 feels a little bit broken, and I think that if we can't get a working fix soon, it might be worth rolling back that change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I was doing the presentation at Drupal South, I really hated how we didn't have the full bleed hero, but that was okay because it was a feature missing. But now we have actually forms not working, and my concern is that when we get that feature back in, if we decide to roll back, is that we really should I want to delve into how to create tests for those pages so that doesn't happen again, because that's an underlying issue there that we actually didn't tests for these. We waited till people reported it on the issue queue.
Yeah, that would be a very good idea. Okay, so why don't we put a time limit on the 1.6.1 release then, because this is affecting people right now, and say we'll give it like a week. And if we don't have a working solution for 2478 in a week, we'll just roll back, like revert the commit that added that.
Yeah, because I saw the date that you have there that says approximately January 22, and that's why I jumped in and said that. I think we're waiting too long.
Okay. Yep. All right. I agree. I just don't want to make that call without Nate here. I mean, how do you feel, Jeff, about?
I think we should probably assign that one to Nate so it gets on his radar, because I haven't
Okay.
seen any work
On it recently.
Yeah, recently.
Okay. I agree. All right, I'll assign that to him, and we'll try and get him to look at it, and hopefully we'll have a release by next Friday. How does that sound? We'll have a 161 release, and it'll have whatever we can fix if we can fix it, and if not, we'll roll back 2478. And can someone add that as a comment onto issue 2478?
Yes, I will do that. I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. I agree. That's a doozy. All right, so for 1.7, there was a bunch of fantastic stuff that almost got into 1.6 that we have prioritized for 1.7, including adding page element blocks. So this is stuff like the page title, the tabs, the action links, stuff that might need to be placed in a different place than it comes out by default in a layout. And we have a pull request for that, which is pretty close. There's a couple little bugs in it that need to be sorted out, and I would love to see that get into 1.7. I think that's one of the sort of feature limitations of layouts right now, is that if you want the title in a different place, you have to create a new layout. But instead, if we could use a block, that would be huge. So we've got that issue 1704, if anyone wants to play with that one. And then also something that I think Andy Duckwam, you've been working on this too, layout relationships. This is something that's making Nate super excited. This is the same relationship concept that existed in panels has existed in layouts. We just haven't had a UI for it, so we haven't been able to add them. And so this is an issue that adds the missing feature, where you could have used it in code, but you couldn't have clicked together your own relationships. And this is something that I think is going to help expose the power of Backdrop to most of the people that are using it. So if you wanted to place blocks for node author fields, for example, on a node template, you can do that if you can add the relationship. So it looks like that is also very likely to happen for 1.7. And I think that those two things alone are going to make 1.7 sort of a killer release. But we also have reference module that we've been working on for a really long time. I think it's fine to stay as a contrib project if it has to stay as a contrib project, but I also would love to see it in core if possible. It's super close. We've got a working reference tool. It just needs an upgrade path. And primarily the upgrade path should be for the taxonomy term reference field that's currently in core. But we also have two other reference type solutions in contrib: references module, which was node reference and user reference, and entity reference module, which I think has a port for Backdrop, but I'm not sure it has any users. Both of those, though, have data that should be transformed into reference style data, so that anyone who is wanting to implement a contrib module that does something fancy with references doesn't have to do that 3 or 4 ways. Instead, they only need to do it 1 way. So I have committed to work on the upgrade paths. I've got a ton of sites that are using term reference now. I'm happy to throw references module on there instead and run upgrade paths for them and see what happens. Not on production, and see if I can help iron that out. And then something else that we need help with there, if anybody loves writing tests, we've got a lot of tests that need to be written because reference module is so flexible and can do so many different things. Making sure we get tests written for all the things it can do would be good. So I think we can look at entity reference module in Drupal 7 and see if it has any tests. We can look at references module, though I doubt it has any tests. And we can look at the tests that were written for Drupal 8 and see if anything there can be used for testing our reference module as well.
which of the references modules in Drupal 7 is closest to the solution that we get in Backdrop?
Probably entity reference is closest. We modeled that data model for Backdrop's core reference module, but it is slightly different. Okay, so that's all we have on the list for 1.7. Though, as people start working with Backdrop and realizing, major features that are missing, we are always open to other major features that need to be included. But we do like to keep focus on the things that we think are going to be best for the project as a whole. So I'm most excited about page element blocks and layout relationships because we don't have those yet in Contrib, and I think they'd be great in core. Reference module I'm also excited about because it'll unblock the way to projects like Backshop and things that depend really heavily on entity references. All right, does anyone else have anything they want to add for Backdrop 1.7 that we should talk about today? Okay, is there anything? Okay, well, let's start with a general discussion and open it up to anyone who has anything they want to add. And then if we have any conversations that need particular focus, we can stop the broadcast and have those in the Hangout afterwards. So open Q&A. Anything to talk about? Daniel, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, if nobody else has, I'd like to do it last. If anybody else has something else, we can do that first.
It looks like everybody's happy.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I am not a programmer. I have been part of the Drupal community since 2001, since the first month. But I am not. I don't really communicate with the core developers because I am not. I'm not there. So we have a large, long-term project, global project that has been on hold pending any kind of CMF tool that is suitable for a global project. And now, 15 plus years into Drupal, we are almost roughly there that we can actually get started. But Drupal is moving away with Drupal 8. It's not suitable. And now we have a choice of basing it either on making something of our own on Drupal 7 or joining Backdrop if we can manage to develop a strategy that is suitable for both. Then we would like to base everything we have on Backdrop and do most or all the distributions that we're planning on Backdrop. So I would like to start out describing what to use the word Backdrop, the Backdrop as a society, the perspective here, what we need for the future, and how a CMF is the only tool that we can use. And we have, fortunately now, we have the recent elections in the United States that is a useful example. Imagine in 15 years' time, when nanotechnology has become somewhat mature, when artificial intelligence in the first stage also is somewhat mature, at least mature in the sense of automation, not in the sense of intelligence, but in automation, it will be, it's not too far. There is a lot of hype now around AI, but not too long it will be relatively mature. But after that, the nanotechnology comes also into its mature stage. Next, in a democracy, what will happen is that there is no need, if there is one of the candidates that somebody thinks is inconvenient and they want to prevent it, and there is no need to for a lot of security and prevent some kind of a murder attempt or something in a presidential candidate after 15 years into the future. Because then they cannot just send a modified mosquito drone and give him some kind of a inconvenient disease that gives him concentration problems. And anybody who gets that without any crime, any traceable crime, they're just simply out of the race. In the society, we need to get in place something that prevents the politicians from not making their decisions transparent. The whole point here is to enforce transparency. In a situation where most or all the countries are already super corrupt, there is no point going through elections and begging the already corrupt politicians for permission. Please, can you change the constitution so that you cannot trick anybody anymore? That won't work. The only thing that can work is, as a citizen, you can use your vote in any way you like. The problem is that there are no political parties or nobody in place, and if they are already corrupt. So what we need is a way to meet the citizens, to meet informally and prepare what is necessary to guarantee transparency, and then agree through some kind of a preliminary voting system about and measure how much support do we really have. Are we getting critical mass or are we not getting critical mass? And then through a normal real election, suddenly somebody can vote in a complete outsider party that has possibly only one thing on their agenda, namely a change of the constitution that guarantees transparency everywhere and open source everywhere in government. And only that. And then you can enforce election system that is open source, so that everybody can be sitting in their living room and checking that the open source voting system hasn't been changed and is actually valid for this election. But before then, in order to have such a system, we need to use digital identity and something that is not approved by government, just to do the discussion. And there a CMS comes in. And when we are ready, we really need a CMF platform that can implement it once we have secured the legislation. And there's no other open source. First of all, the solution needs to, in order for it to be transparent, open source is the only answer. And these processes here take a lot of time. 15 years is not a lot in terms of dealing with changes in constitution. That's almost nothing. So there's nobody that can compete with the maturity of the Drupal 7/Backdrop platform now that can have any chance of finishing something in time. Maybe we have only these 15 years before the nanotechnology is ready, because after that, if we don't have a system in place, then any kind of election that is needed the first time to actually make the first change will be easily manipulated, very easily manipulated, in ways that are simply not traceable. It's not we don't have a chance. That's a goodbye to democracy, basically.
I'm gonna stop you, Daniel, because we're kind of out of time for today. But I just wanted to say that I am stopping the broadcast, but we can continue to talk about this on the Hangout if you want to keep sharing your ideas. All right, so I'm gonna turn off the recording right now. And then thank you guys for coming and watching, and we will carry on in a minute. So don't leave the call.